Hello, my name is Richard. I am 11 years old. First thing I would like to do is give a warm thanks to all of you that have commented about my quest to have the iPad, my video. Thank you for everything, the votes. So what I will do today is explain how Simplegui is used in a very basic program, and I will walk you through creating another part of this program that will expand its capabilities. So instead of running it right off the bat, I will explain the preliminaries. Import Simplegui. That just means I'm importing the module created by Mr. Rixner. Temp equals 0. I'm creating a global variable, temp, and that is 0. So if I were to put print temp right here, it would print 0. Define temp FC. This is the handler for this button right here. Celsius equals temp minus 32 times 5 divided by 9. That's the formula to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. Print the Celsius of it is Celsius, so this is going to print the results. Define temp CF, it does exactly the opposite. And define new temp input, global temp equals float input. All that is the handler for the input box. And this is where I got most confused in trying to craft this very basic program, as CodeSculptor is very different from Python in input many ways. So let me go through this part first. Temperature equals simplegui.createFrame. This is the name that pops up on the window. 300, this is the length and the width. And this, becomes 400. This is the width of the control area, and that is always optional. All this does is make a variable called temperature, and it is a frame. To understand these, I will have to run the function really quickly, or the program I should say, and let's run it. Output will appear in CodeSculptor console. Remember to hit enter after putting in temperature. Fahrenheit equals F and Celsius equals C. So all this does is I can put in any temperature. So let's try 212. And I know if I convert this as Fahrenheit to Celsius, I will get 100. And this is wrong. The reason is I did not hit enter after putting in temperature. This is actually converting the 0 Fahrenheit to Celsius. And I'm sorry about that. So let's try it again. 212 and enter. Now let's see if I get the same results. No. I get the Celsius of it is 100, which is what we expect. Now one more is 32. Now let's convert this. And I forgot to put 100, enter. So now let's try it again. And it is 0. So let's try out the Celsius to Fahrenheit. 0. We know this is going to be 32. And it is. 100. This is boiling point for water. And it is 212. So all this is doing is transferring it. So what our goal is to do now, and I'll explain how the input works later, is to create Kelvin. Now these are all the formulas, and some of them we don't need. We need Celsius to Kelvin, Kelvin to Celsius, Kelvin to Fahrenheit, and Fahrenheit to Kelvin. We need this formula right here. K equals Kelvin. So what we need to do is create a new function called def temp. And now K. This is gonna create Fahrenheit to Kelvin. And again, those two parentheses that says there is no argument. So we're going to say Kelvin equals, and what does it equal? It equals Fahrenheit plus, I'm just going to copy and paste this to spare you the time. And this is it. Equals F plus 459.67 divided by 1.8. And I should put temp right here because this is this. Temp plus 459. So this is going to convert Fahrenheit to Kelvin. So print. The Kelvin of it is, and it sounds kind of funny, temp. Oh, I should say Kelvin. Kelvin. And this is going to print. So this is going to print this. So let's try it. But first we need to add a button. And that button is going to be called temperature.add button. And what's the suitable name for this? It should be F2K. And then we're going to call the handler FK. But before we do this, we need to put this into the add label. Fahrenheit equals F, Celsius equals C, and Kelvin equals K. All this is going to do is create another part of that label, and it tells us Kelvin equals K, and let's run it. Fahrenheit equals F, Celsius equals C, Kelvin equals K. So we can now create Fahrenheit to Kelvin. So let's try. Now I have no ideas of these numbers, so let's see in another bar, what is 0 Fahrenheit in Kelvin, or Kevlin? And it says 255.372. So in my window, I'm going to recall it. So 0, enter. Well, I didn't have to do that because temp is already 0. And it gives us 255.372. So that means that this function is working. Second, we need to create the others. Now I'll just quickly do this without talking at all, and I'll explain to you a quick overview of what you need to do. Okay, goodbye for a little bit. Well, I am going to post a link on the forums, and maybe you shouldn't have been writing all that stuff with me, or you could just watch and see how I did it. I'm sorry for the long period of silence, I just wanted to get it done fast. So instead of adding the buttons inside that long period of silence, I will walk you through it. Wow, we just made 4 new handlers, and that's converting Fahrenheit to Kelvin, Celsius to Kelvin, Kelvin to Fahrenheit, and Kelvin to Celsius. If this is a long video, I'm very sorry. And I will try to make up with it, and I think, in fact, that in that period of time, I'll add some cool music, if I can. Temperature.add button. This adds the button into the the control area. And now we create the button, and the first button is F to K, and we have already created that, as you can see. Now we need to create C to K, so C to K. Whoops. And now we need to call temp C to K. Not too hard. Again, temperature dot add button, K to F. And now temp K F. Not too hard either. Temperature.add button. And now the whole gist of this is just a lot of programming and a lot of lines. Actually, this program is only 58 lines long, but not too long. So now it's K to C. And now let's check to see if we got all of them. Fahrenheit to Celsius, Celsius to Fahrenheit, Fahrenheit to Kelvin, Celsius to Kelvin, Kelvin to Fahrenheit, and Kelvin to Celsius. And I suppose we don't need Kelvin to Kelvin. That would be kind of weird. Temp KC. And now let's test it out. And now we see that it's overrunning it. And the reason is that because I didn't leave a default. So let's leave a default and see what happens. And now it's even worse. So let's put 500 and see how this reacts. And it still doesn't work. The reason is that the whole entire window is not long enough. We need to increase those 2 300s. This thing is not doing anything except for leaving a wider width. So let's leave it at 400. Let's put 400 and 300 and let's see if it works. Now, as you can see, it did not increase the length of it, so we can still see the code that it outputs. But then it also increased the bigness of it. Sorry, not of my vocabulary. And let's test it out. So, 100. K to F, C to K, F to K, C to F, F, C. At least it does not run an error. The Fahrenheit of it is negative 459.67. How did it get that? And that's because we converted it from Kelvin, as you can see. Whoa. Did you see that? My computer just glitched on me. Let's go back to temperature. And it should bring back negative 459.67. And let's restart it. So, this function is fully running. Let me explain these functions. All they're doing is registering temp and Kelvin. And what these have to do in a function is call some kind of result. If you had no result in it, it would error. And it's just calling these handlers as the buttons. So if you click a button, it calls a handler. And I suppose that is what essentially event-driven programming is. It's a key or a click or some kind of event or action made on the part of the user, the player, or even the programmer. I'm sorry for the very long video length, but I hope you learned a lot on how this kind of works in CodeSculptor and Simplegui. I will hope to see you again, and I hope you like my video on Coursera. And if I didn't do a good job, tell me why on the comments. Thank you very much. Goodbye.